welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. We're back with another game preview here. This one, I believe they're calling the Sentinel One Classic at Madison Square Garden. They're just throwing names on these things at this point. This one coming tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Texas Tech, of course, their three tests they've had really up to this point. I guess we'll leave out like LSU or Wake Forest from this, but the three ranked teams they've played, Purdue, Illinois, Arkansas, they've lost all three games. Granted, that one last weekend against Arkansas was a little bit better than either of those games against Illinois or Purdue. You know, they kind of hung in. They kind of controlled the game for a good chunk of it. And then Arkansas pulled away in the second half. But they're still looking for a marquee win on their schedule. As for Duke, you know, they got the leading scorer in the country in Cam Boozer, and they're sitting at 11-0, and they've passed, you know, every test they've had up to this point. You know, and for Texas Tech, it doesn't really get any easier here playing this Duke team, especially when they're depleted now. You know, a team that already didn't have a ton of depth is now even weaker. Even less deep. So it doesn't really shape up all that well for Texas Tech in this matchup.
No, it does kind of suck because, I mean, before the season started, I was pretty excited about this matchup. But now, I mean, Texas Tech is just so depleted up front. And it's just a clear difference when Luke Bamgoy is on the floor as a defender compared to when JT Toppin's playing the five. It's just been completely night and day difference, and they don't like pretty much all of their bigs are injured right now. Like Mariella Kuntak is also out. He's missed like the last 8 games. I don't know if he's going to play here. I'm pretty sure Bamgoy is going to be out. I believe Josiah Mosley hasn't played a minute all year. I don't know what the deal is there, but literally every front court player they have besides Toppin is just down with injury right now. They just need bodies at this point, and I think they're one of the teams that's in on the 25-year-old Kyrie Walker, who was playing in Mongolia right now. I'm not sure. They kind of just need a wider frame guy to throw out there at times, but I don't really know what he's going to bring to the table. We'll see. That's a whole other debate to have in a different segment. But yeah, Tech just kind of needs to find a way to generate stops consistently against good competition. I'm not sure this is a great matchup for them to do so with Duke being one of the biggest teams in the country at, you know, just the possessional size they have is going to be so tough to handle really on both ends of the floor. Like, regardless of how good of an offense Texas Tech is, like, this is a really good Duke defense that has, you know, switchability, and they're going to have size and the size and athleticism advantage really at both ends of the floor. Yeah, they're going to be up against it. JT Toppin's going to have a lot to handle up front with Boozer and Gungba and Malik Brown when they throw him out there. So, yeah, I mean, I think Tech, they have paths to keep this game close. Like, they're going to limit possessions. Like, I think they're going to be walking up the floor, just walking the ball up the floor every possession and trying to keep this in like the low 60s in possession count and kind of just turn it into a half court execution battle. I kind of think that's the number one way for Tech to be able to get it done. And they have one of the best, two-man games in the country with Christian Anderson and JT Toppin. It's just a matter of them being efficient against a really good defense in Duke.
Yeah, for sure. And just a note about Kyrie Walker. He was playing in the G League when Cam Boozer was a freshman in high school. So, like, just seems.
I think he was averaging like 4 points a game in a Canada League, I think last year or 2 years ago. So,
yeah,
I'm not really sure.
He's playing for the Ottawa Blackjacks.
Yeah, I'm just not really sure what we're going to be getting from Kyrie Walker. I mean, You're at least getting a vet. I don't really know what we're getting besides that. I mean, he was in the class with who? Like, was he in the 2020 class, I believe? Freshman class, 5-star.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't really know what we're getting there. It's a whole other story.
Yeah. But as for keys to the game here, Texas Tech, like you said, they really need to control the pace, I think. They're not a deep team, especially right now. So they really need to try and conserve some energy, I think, in particular against this Duke team, because they're going to need Toppin and Anderson to play huge minutes. The other day in their last game, I believe they only had 6 guys really play real minutes. Yeah, they had 33 minutes off the bench, and that was with Tyree Bryan, who started he played 14. So other than that, the next closest was 7 minutes, and that was Luke Bamgoy at 7, who he got hurt. So really need to control pace here. Going to be really important to limit Duke's second chance opportunities, right? Like Duke is 30th in offensive rebound rate, especially with the depleted front court, and a Texas Tech team already that doesn't do a fantastic job on the defensive glass. Like, this is an area where I'm very concerned. Texas Tech is 166th in defensive rebound rate, and they just don't have the bodies right now. They need warm bodies to help them out in this area, and I just don't think they're coming. And then offensively, along with the pace, I think just continuing to make shots at a high clip. Like, that's one thing they have been able to do well up to this point. And in this game against Duke, like, they're going to get their fair share of open threes, right? I mean, Duke does give up the three ball at a 43.4% clip, 284th in the country in three-point rate defense. Texas Tech is, no stranger to shooting the three. And they're shooting it nearly 38% on the season. Like, they're going to get their fair share of looks. So, utilizing that two-man game of Toppin and Anderson and just kind of playing out of that, I'd expect Duke to really sell out to try to stop those two guys. So it's going to be really important for some of these others around them to have big games and step up and make shots, right? Like, we saw Lawan Watts last game out had a massive game. 36 points. I'm not expecting that again, but like, if they could get a fraction of that tomorrow night, like that would go a long way. I think like they're going to just need other guys to step up and take some pressure off, because this Duke defense is obviously really good, as we've talked about all year. Anderson and Toppin are going to need some relief here. So guys are just going to need to make shots, as cliche as that sounds. Like, that's the only way I think you're going to really beat this Duke team, because I don't think that they're going to be able to necessarily put a ton of pressure on the rim, at least from the guard spot. So, Toppin's going to have his success. Anderson's going to have his success, but it's going to need to be the other guys. But on the flip side, Cody, what's Duke need to do to make sure an upset doesn't happen?
Yeah, just for Tech real quick, that's kind of what I had marked down, is just like on the offensive end, go ballistic from three, play out of your two-man game, and just create a ton of advantages if you can against a tough Duke defense. And the one thing I had jotted down for defensively is like, well, at first I said I have no clue what they're going to end up doing here because they're too small up front. But what I think they should do is just switch defenses as often as possible, like mix different looks. And that actually gave Duke like a really difficult time against Lipscomb, of all teams, who's just not a good defense at all. They're really unathletic. They forced 22 turnovers against Duke. Maybe Duke was just sleepwalking before like a so-called big game here against Tech, but they didn't look good, particularly in the first half, and they just looked really sloppy with the ball. So if Tech can get a little bit aggressive in this game defensively, I know they did defend ball screens a little bit more aggressively against Arkansas last game. They had been a strictly drop coverage defense the entire season, but they did get aggressive against Arkansas, and it worked for at least the first half, or like a decent amount of the first half, and then they kind of started to get diced late. But yeah, mix coverages as often as you can, and maybe you can steal some possessions from a Duke offense that's really good as well. But for Duke, it's dominate the inside, dominate the interior in general. Play through Cam Boozer as often as you can, because who's guarding him? Like, if they throw Toppin at him, I think that's a decent matchup for him anyways. But then who's going to cover Gungba up front? It's like, is it going to be Lawan Watts? Like, I just don't really see that happening. Like, Lawan Watts has been he's been playing the four for a large amount of the year, and he's an undersized four who's just not particularly a great defender in general. So I do think whichever matchup that Watts gets, I think one of the Duke bigs is going to be in a really good spot. They're going to have to send a second guy down, and then Duke can kind of hit their catch and shoot threes like they have done all year, like Evans, Foster, Hamenya, and like Darren Harris off the bench, and other guys like that have been really good this season. This is just a really tough offense to cover in general, but particularly I think Cam Boozer has a really good matchup, especially if he's covered by Watts, because he's a great passer out of double teams too. So I do think Duke is just in a really good spot in general. There's really not much to add on top of that. Like they should dominate the glass, like you mentioned. Maybe the guards have a rough time, like I mentioned, against like a little extra pressure. But besides that, I think Duke is in a pretty good spot to succeed if they're just not hitting shots at a super high clip, which I can see happening kind of on a neutral floor. They've kind of played with their food at times on the offensive end, and have kind of struggled to have that breakaway speed against quality competition. They've kind of had to bog the game down late and win with their defense, like against Florida, Arkansas, and like even a little bit against Michigan State, where they threw that zone out there against Michigan State late, and Sparty didn't really know what to do with it. So, but yeah, besides that, I do think they're in a good spot. I just think they're a more well-rounded team. I think they're, one of the top 3 teams in the country for my money, and this is a Texas Tech team that's feels like they're in kind of disarray. Like I'm high on McCaslin as a coach, but I just think it's kind of a personnel issue on the defensive end.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't kind of shape up very well, I don't think, in this matchup with how good Boozer's been and how dominant that front court is for Duke. So game prediction, we've kind of already hit it on the head. I'm going to take Duke. I think they have a decent chance to sort of run away with it a little bit. I'm going to take them to win this one like 85-72, I'll say. I just think they're just going to be too much physically. They're going to just kind of wear out this Texas Tech defense.
Yeah, I would agree with like the margin of victory there. I think it can be double digits fairly easily. I have it a little bit lower scoring because I think Tech is going to try to keep this at like a 60-61 possession game, like maybe even lower if they want. I think, the less possessions in this game, the better chance they have with the lack of depth that they have and how good their half court offense is. Like that gives them the best path. So I have this as a 79-68 Duke win. I just think they win with their physicality up front. Like if they get JT Toppin in foul trouble, like I have no idea where Texas Tech is going to go up front, like play super small ball and just trap everything and really try to get after you on the defensive side, force some turnovers like Lipscomb was able to. But I don't really see the paths for Tech right now. It's kind of sad to say because I was pretty high on this team at the beginning of the year, but they've been kind of ravaged by injuries in the front court, and depth was an issue for them coming into the season, and it's coming to the forefront right now. So yeah, I like Duke to get the job done at the Garden.
Yeah, I just think there are way too many ways for this to go sideways for Tech versus Duke. So should be hopefully a fun matchup. There's some star power on both sides here, so hopefully like Toppin and Anderson can keep it closer. But it's just not a great matchup at this point in time for Texas Tech. But that wraps things up for us here. Thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.